Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to cut through the noise and get you truly informed. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating exploration into Papua New Guinea. It's gearing up for its huge 50th Golden Jubilee Independence Anniversary. 50 years. Just imagine the scale, the national pride, the sheer buzz around all the celebrations. It's a really significant moment. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today, really, is to follow the money trail behind these massive events. We're going to try and uncover how these celebrations are being funded, from the highest national levels all the way down to the local communities, the wards. We've gathered some detailed sources, finance instructions, budget papers, even some real-world examples, and we're going to distill it all down into a clear, concise picture for you. By the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll understand not just the numbers, but also some of the, surprising implications and maybe challenges involved.
Yeah. And what's truly fascinating here is that understanding these funding mechanisms, it goes way beyond just accounting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely crucial for transparency, for fostering genuine community engagement, and ultimately for making sure these Golden Jubilee celebrations really resonate with every single citizen. Sure. So we're going to give you a clear breakdown where the money's coming from, how it's supposed to flow, and some very interesting discrepancies that have already started popping up locally.
Right. Let's start at the top then. Our deep dive begins where the money trail originates, with the national government's, pretty significant investment. For the big, grand national level celebrations, the government has set aside an impressive K50 million kina.
50 million.
Yeah, that's for those centrally managed high-profile events. Now, reports indicate that an initial K20 million warrant, which is basically an official okay for payment, has already been released. So this first chunk is specifically to kickstart preparations, mainly for events in Port Moresby, the capital, and other big national programs. That's a pretty substantial commitment from the center.
It really is. Yeah. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this K50 million is a powerful statement of national intent. It really underscores the immense importance the government places on this Golden Jubilee. It's for those unifying symbolic events that, aim to bring the entire nation together. But, and this is vital to grasp, this is quite distinct from how funding is handled at the subnational levels. We're talking provinces and districts.
Okay.
And that's where the story gets a bit more, let's say, intricate.
Indeed. So while that K50 million is for the national spectacle, here's where it gets really interesting for local governance. On January 14th, 2025, the Department of Finance issued a critical directive. It was finance instruction. 012025, and there was an accompanying circular too. And look, this wasn't a suggestion, it was a clear mandate. This instruction, it requires provincial administrators, district administrators, and even members of parliament to allocate K1 melzen.
1 million kina.
Yes, 1 million kina from each province's PSIP, that's the Provincial Services Improvement Program account.
The TICAS.
And another K1,000 from each district's DSIP, the District Services Improvement Program account.
Okay, so one from each.
Exactly. And this money is specifically earmarked just to fund local independence anniversary activities. So 1 million per province, 1 million per district, pulled directly from these existing program funds.
And this directive comes with some pretty strict guardrails.
Yeah.
These funds are designated only for celebration-related activities.
Only celebrations.
Yes. The instruction is very clear.
Yeah.
This money cannot be sort of diverted for capital works or other development projects, nothing else. Plus, the standard financial rules still apply, procurement acquittal procedures, meaning there are strict rules for documenting every single expense.
Yeah.
Provinces and districts, they have to compile detailed financial reports and submit them to DIRD, that's the Department of Intergovernment Relations and Development, and the Secretary of Finance by December 30th, 2025.
Okay.
So the whole framework is really aimed at ensuring accountability.
Yeah.
Even with all the celebratory spending going on.
That accountability piece is huge, isn't it? Now, let's dig a bit deeper into what PSIP and DSIP actually are. Because like you said, this K1 million isn't just new money magically appearing.
Exactly.
The 2025 national budget papers, they show that the total national PSIP budget was somewhere around K220 million. That works out to roughly K10 million per province, give or take. And the DSIP budget was, much larger, around K960 million nationally. So again, about K10 million per district.
Yeah, those are the big pots of money for local development each year.
Right.
So the critical takeaway here is that this K1 million directive for the Golden Jubilee celebrations, it's not new funding appearing out of nowhere.
No.
It's actually a portion of these larger, already existing annual program allocations for provinces and districts. And that's a really crucial distinction because it means these funds are being redirected from existing budgets.
You redirected. Okay.
Which, naturally. This raises an important question. What does pulling K1 million from programs that were likely intended for, say, infrastructure, health, or education actually mean for other local priorities?
Yeah.
What about projects already planned?
Yeah, that's a good point. To give you a clearer picture of that impact, just imagine a typical K10 million DSIP allocation for a district. Usually, districts spread these funds across vital areas, like maybe 30% for infrastructure, roads, bridges, perhaps 20% for health clinics, 20% for schools.
The core services?
Exactly. Then smaller bits for administration, maybe 10%, law and justice, another 10%, economic stuff, maybe agriculture support, another 10%. That kind of breakdown. These are like the lifeblood of local development.
So when you redirect K1 million KINA just for celebrations, you're essentially taking funds that would otherwise, most likely, have gone into one or more of those vital sector budgets.
Right.
And this is precisely why some members of Parliament, and other observers too, actually voiced concerns about this in Parliament when the instruction came out.
Okay.
It just highlights the inherent trade-offs involved, doesn't it? When a national directive impacts local level resource allocation, it can potentially shift funds away from really critical ongoing services towards a one-off celebratory event.
So we've tracked the KINA from the big K50 million national pot down to the K1 million per province and K1 million per district mandate. But what about the actual communities? The wards, is there a fixed amount from the national level, per ward for these celebrations?
That's a key question people have been asking.
Yeah.
And the finance instruction gives us a very definitive answer. No.
No. Okay.
There. The instruction explicitly specifies K1 million per province and K1 million per district. It says nothing about a direct allocation for each individual ward.
Right. So it stops at the district level, officially.
Exactly. This is where local discretion really kicks in. How those K1 million sums the District 1 specifically are then distributed down to the local level governments, the LLGs, and then further down to individual wards. Well, that's left up to the province, the District Development Authority boards, the DDAs, or the Provincial Executive Councils, the PECs, and the DDA itself. They basically follow their normal DSIP or PSIP procedures for deciding how to spend that money locally. And this local autonomy, this discretion, is precisely where we start to see variations pop up, which can sometimes lead to, some interesting inconsistencies on the ground.
And we actually have a perfect case study to bring this right to life. Let's look at Manus province.
Okay.
Reports we've seen indicate that Manus province apparently set K3,000 per ward as the kind of standard allocation for ward-level independence celebrations.
3,000 KINA per ward. Okay, a set amount.
Yeah, it gives you a clear example of how a province might take that K1 million district allocation and try to translate it into a fixed ward level payment, probably aiming for some kind of uniformity across its communities, right?
Makes sense. A simple way to divide it up.
And here's where it gets truly fascinating. Just like you said earlier, we immediately see a contrast. In Nigoherm LLG, which is within Manus province.
Right, part of Manus.
The current president there publicly announced that only K2,000 per ward would be provided for the celebrations.
Oh, wait. 2,000. Not 3.
Exactly. That's a K1,000 difference per ward compared to the Manus-wide standard that was reportedly set.
Wow. Okay. What's fascinating here is exactly that how local discretion, even within the same province, can lead directly to these kinds of inconsistencies. It creates a real disparity for those communities in Nigoherm.
A K1,000 difference per ward is substantial, isn't it? Especially when you think about tiny local budgets.
Sure.
Now, our sources suggest maybe a few possible reasons for this discrepancy in Nigoherm. It could just stem from different internal budgeting choices made by the Nigoherm District Development Authority, maybe the LLG executive. Perhaps they decided to retain some funds at the LLG Center for more, centralized activities.
That's possible.
Or it might simply be a result of, miscommunication. Or even specific political decisions made right there at that local level. We don't know for sure.
Right. Regardless of the exact reason, though, the implications are pretty clear. First, it immediately raises a transparency issue for the wards in Nigoherm, doesn't it? Why are they getting K1,000 less than other wards just next door in the same province?
Good question.
Second, it really serves as a powerful governance lesson. Without a national per-ward directive, the actual amounts wards receive depend heavily on this local discretion, which leads directly to these kinds of inconsistencies.
Yeah.
And finally, it just highlights a clear need for accountability. It really encourages communities and local ward leaders to actively ask questions and seek clarification.
Okay, so this brings us to the really practical part. What does this all mean for you if you're involved in a local community, maybe a ward committee, especially with these celebrations coming up fast? We've pulled out some actionable insights directly from the sources we looked at. First, know the source of the money. Remember, any funds for ward celebrations are coming from your district's DSIP allocation.
That K1 million block.
Exactly. It's not coming from some separate special ward fund created just for this.
That's a key point.
Second, always try to check the official instructions yourself if you can. The finance instruction mandates K1 million per district, not a specific amount per ward. Understanding that difference is crucial for understanding why amounts might vary.
Right, managing expectations.
Third, engage directly with your local authorities. Go talk to your district development authority, your provincial administrator. Ask them, has that K1 million been formally set aside? What portion, if any, is guaranteed to go to wards or maybe to LLG level events?
Big clarity.
Yes. And if you're seeking funds, try to get their process and timelines in writing, especially regarding procurement and what paperwork they'll need.
Documentation.
Fourth, if you do see inconsistencies like that K3000 versus K2000 example in Manus, well, communities can and absolutely should demand written clarification. Ask your DDA or your LLG president. It's all about promoting transparency.
Absolutely. Ask the question.
And finally, prepare your paperwork. It sounds boring, but stress the importance of getting all the required documents ready in advance. We're talking invoices, receipts, those officially certified Section 32 claims, whatever your DDA requires. This helps your local leaders comply with the finance instructions' strict acquittal rules later on.
It makes the whole process smoother and accountable, which brings us back to that question. How can communities best use this information we've discussed? How can they use it to ensure their local celebrations are funded fairly and transparently? Because understanding these financial flows, it isn't just about demanding money. It's really about community empowerment through knowledge. It's about being informed participants in the process, being able to hold local leaders accountable, and ultimately ensuring that the spirit of the Golden Jubilee is celebrated equitably, across all communities, big and small.
Absolutely well said. So what does this all mean when we put it all together? We've covered quite a bit of ground today, haven't we?
We have.
The big picture starts with that K50 million Kina for the national level celebrations. Then there's the mandate, K1 million from each province's PSIP and K1 million from each district's DSIP funds, specifically for local events.
Right.
And crucially, how that K1 million at the district level actually trickles down to the wards, well, that's largely left to local discretion. A point really dramatically illustrated by that K3000 versus K2000 example in Manus and Nigoherm.
Exactly. And, it leaves us with a final thought to maybe ponder. How does this funding model, with its mix of these strong national directives, but also very localized discretion, how does it truly balance that desire for a unified national celebration with the, let's face it, unique needs and priorities of incredibly diverse local communities all across Papua New Guinea? It kind of encourages us, I think, to think about the broader implications for local governance, for resource allocation in general, far beyond just this specific, albeit very important, celebratory event.
That is a powerful question to keep in mind as PNG celebrates this milestone. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the funding behind Papua New Guinea's Golden Jubilee celebrations. We really hope you're leaving feeling more informed and maybe a bit more curious. Keep exploring, keep questioning the information around you, and stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time.